back off. That is the message to Donald Trump from the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker. In a fiery speech, Pritzker slamming Trump's unprecedented crackdown on crime, as Trump calls it, and Trump's threats to send the National Guard to Chicago.
This is not about fighting crime. This is about Donald Trump searching for any justification to deploy the military in a blue city, in a blue state, to try and intimidate his political rivals.
So, I mean, are there blue cities or red cities in red states that are having an issue? And again, that doesn't mean that I would be all for, sending in the guard or, whatever line that they're gonna what line of attack they're gonna take as far as what Trump is doing and they're gonna be against. I mean, in the end, are the citizens crying for this? Is it something that they want? Still doesn't mean it's constitutional, and that can all be litigated in the court, right? But these people are not doing their jobs. Their citizens are not safe, and you're kind of stuck because that's what these people voted for. Not all of them, right? But obviously a majority voted for people that implement these types of policies. And you kind of almost have to say, well, that's what you get. And that's how I used to think, and I still do to a certain extent. But the main role of government, and one of the only roles, in my view, a legitimate role of government, is to protect the citizens from foreign, domestic crimes, whatever that may be. Crimes of violence, property crimes, theft. If you're not safe, then, that's the hallmark of a functioning government. That is the baseline of what government should do, especially on the federal side, right? That's, the state, these local municipalities, if people want regulations on having dog licensing, which is retarded. But if that's what you want, you vote for it, you put it in. I don't know, like I just have this feeling that I just don't understand how this keeps happening. Like when you look at New York and you look at who they're about to elect, yeah, he's talking about, affordability and things like that, but he's definitely going to, there's going to be a large fostering of crime. That's abundantly apparent to anybody that's paying attention. And I just don't get how you do it. You get what you asked for, and nobody's held accountable, and then you vote for the same thing again. I don't get how that works. I don't understand, like, what is the mind virus? How broken is your brain that you can't see that safety is paramount? Like, without safety, forget about whether it's socialism, communism, anything you want to implement. It can't work if people can't be safe. You can't walk down the street, right? If once it's dark, everyone has to go home. That's not a good way of running anything.
There is no emergency in Chicago that calls for armed military intervention. There is no insurrection. There is no insurrection. Mr. President, do not come to Chicago.
Okay, so that's them. Those are the politicians that are there. They're applauded. I want to know how the people of Chicago feel. What do they think? What do they think? I tell you right now, New York City, we're having several mass shootings now within the past week. It's not looking good, and it's amazing because even with that buzz, the other side still can't get a foothold in any kind of poll that you put out there. Mamdani is still running away with it. Democratic socialist, quote unquote, that's running for mayor of New York.
Neither wanted here nor needed here.
Okay, well, that's pretty loud and clear. Pritzker doesn't want the National Guard in Chicago. Well, that used to be enough to not get the National Guard sent to your city, but not anymore. Trump has been giving himself more powers to expand his use of force across the country. And right now, he has set his sights on Chicago.
So how is he giving himself more power? That's not something that he can do. Either the powers are part of the package or they're not. And if they're not, then it'll go to court. He'll be found, whatever, and then they'll have to withdraw the troops. It's you can't just unilaterally say, "Oh, I'm going to have this power that wasn't granted to me before."
I made the statement that next year would be Chicago because, as you all know, Chicago is a killing field right now. And they don't acknowledge it. And they say, we don't need them, freedom, freedom. I mean, I see Pritzker saying, we don't want them. In the meantime, a city is being shot to hell. And they do that politically. And they probably do want it.
Trump railing against the crime in Chicago, but just a quick, basic fact check of the situation. Chicago is a city that has seen a substantial decline in the number of homicides, something that Pritzker and the mayor of Chicago have pointed out.
13 of the top 20 cities in homicide rate have Republican governors. None of these cities is Chicago.
Chicago is not in the top 25 of the most dangerous cities in the United States. And these facts are indisputable and widely acknowledged.
So
Another
what are the
city
numbers?
seeing a decline in violent crime as of late is Baltimore. Yet Baltimore is also on Trump's radar.
Yeah. I think you're going to win the argument with people saying that Baltimore is doing swell, that Chicago is doing really well. You're not going to win that argument. You know, like, okay, if you're saying that it's down, 10%, okay, that may be down. It's still freaking high. You know what I mean? If you're tipping the scale at 600 murders a year, and then the following year you're at 560. Okay, yeah, you saw a decline. It's not good, right? At New York City's height, I believe it was probably in the late 80s, early 90s, around there. We were over 2,000 murders a year. That was at the height. The lowest we ever saw, we saw one point where we were just having one a day, 300 and something murders for the year. That's where we were. We're now, probably around double that. We go anywhere between 500 and 600. So sometimes we're low, sometimes we're higher. We're not anywhere near the 2,000, right? But that's not to say that people feel safe in the city. It's not to say that the city feels clean. Not to say that when it comes to, it doesn't matter what the stats are. It matters what the public feels. It matters if they think they can go outside. It matters if they trust that their children can walk from their home to the school without getting mugged, without getting something happen to them, without them catching a stray. Is that the overall consensus and the vibe right now that's going on in New York City? Absolutely not. And I would almost guarantee you that in Baltimore, they don't feel like that either.
Baltimore is a horrible, horrible deathbed. It's a deathbed.
He calls Baltimore a deathbed. And yet in the same breath, Trump then went on to tell a story about, this is an incredible story because he says that he met the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, who, by the way, infamously grew up in Baltimore, now the governor of Maryland. So he meets Wes Moore at a football game, an Army-Navy game. And this is what Trump says happens.
He came over to me, hugged me, shook my hand. You were there. He said, sir, you're the greatest president of my lifetime.
Maybe if he'd gone a little shy of greatest, if he'd retold the story of he said you're doing a good job or something that might be more believable. But here's the thing. That's kind of hard to swallow. And a short time ago, Governor Moore responded to Trump's claims.
I'm a person who takes my integrity very seriously. And I spent the past 6 months before that election campaigning as to why I did not think that he should be the next president of the United States. So when I say that conversation never happened, that imaginary conversation never happened, I mean that conversation never happened.
Moore, Pritzker, Gavin Newsom, governor of California, all saying no to Trump on using the military in American cities. But their words don't seem to matter.
What is increasingly becoming self-evident to anyone with eyes wide open and any level of objectivity, a private army for Donald Trump, owing an oath only to him, not the Constitution of the United States.
The fact that anyone, I've said this many times, he's very skilled. You can't say anything but that. He's a very skilled politician. Been in the game for a long time. He's very sharp. He's very slick. But anyone that looks at that guy, anyone that hears that guy's speech pattern, anyone that, I'm just talking. This is me talking. There's no script. I don't do review notes or whatever. I'm just talking. And you listening to him, you just know that everything he says, everything he's doing, it's all a performance. It's extremely evident of that. Most politicians are. He's a lot more polished. It just seems a lot more phony to me, anyway. when he's trying to portray himself as a normal person, Like, does anyone think that that's normal? Like, it's just, I'm just waiting for that to die. And that's one of the things I still like about Trump, even though, there's a lot of stuff going on. He's still a guy talking. He's a guy talking. He says it. He didn't do a focus group to test out the next phrase that he has to say. He says what he thinks. Sometimes he messes up. It is what it is. That's called being a normal person. That's kind of what you need, right? That's what you want, because you never ever will ever know if you're getting anything truthful out of Newsom. I mean, you're probably not. But I mean, to listen to him, you know without a shadow of a doubt that there's no way you could ever trust anything that the guy says.
So Newsom says that. What's interesting is that is a claim that Trump does not seem to be shying away from at all.
I'm chief law enforcement officer, believe it or not. I don't like to go around saying that, but I am. That's the position.
It's an interesting thing to say, right? He's not talking about commander-in-chief, which isn't something one would usually just be out talking about as president anyway, but he's phrasing it chief law enforcement officer. Jeff Zeleny is out front live outside the White House, beginning our coverage this evening. And Jeff, there are signs today from Trump that he plans to take this law enforcement takeover, right, in certain Democratic cities even further.
Well, the president signed a series of executive orders, Aaron, and one of them was designed to do just that. He's instructing his defense secretary to create specialized units, as he described them, inside the National Guard for rapid nationwide deployment in areas where law and order is needed. Of course, not many specifics on that. But look, the National Guard is used for emergencies. And the question here is this an emergency? But you would be mistaken if you thought that President Trump was concerned by any of this Democratic pushback. In fact, this is clearly one of the strategies at play here. Here we are nearing the end of August.
Yeah, and it's a pretty decent strategy, right? You have these leaders that have cities that are crumbling, that are falling apart, that people are totally in fear of, like I said, just walking outside. And how do they think this is going to play, right? Like, there's two sides of this coin, right? There are conservative libertarians that are extremely worried about government overreach, which this obviously seems to be, right? But then you take the political side. The political side is you have Democratic cities where they don't care about the overreach. What's their angle? Like, they're not. I don't know how they can square this round, put this round hole in this square shaped object. Or vice versa, however I just screwed that up. But you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like, they're trying to say that he shouldn't be doing this because we don't want it because. And that's it. They're just letting it hang out there. Meanwhile, their citizens are, having massive amount of crime happen to them. They're scared shitless to go outside. And so how do you think that's going to play out? The National Guard comes in, cleans the cities up, makes them livable again. Everybody there is happier, especially if you have a targeted approach where you're actually going after criminals and you're not just erroneously coming down on the entire populace that's there. How is that going to play out, right? They're going to get cleaned up. People are going to be happier. People are going to be moving around. They're going to say, this is great. I don't see it, just politically speaking, like, if he goes this route, it's going to be a win. And it's going to be, and like I said, the MAGA libertarian right, they're pretty leery of this because this is not something that you should be doing. You shouldn't be doing it, right? They voted for it. Let them rot. But it's almost like he's going to be taking the wind out of their sail because, like I said, they can't go there and claim that they're all about this, freedom and the Constitution and all stuff like that. When COVID trampled over that for 4 years straight, and they were all about it. We're all about it, right? I can't even tell you how much I lost during that time. Businesses closed, out of work. It was a horror show here in New York. It really was. I mean, if you weren't a bodega, a grocery store, or a liquor store, you're done. You were done. So to do a 180 on this and say that they're all about the Constitution and it's just it doesn't ring true. It doesn't ring true.
And President Trump has spent the lion's share of this month at least talking about domestic matters, making the issue of law and order, of crime and justice. And he has quite literally turned this into a new and nationwide issue. Yes, crime existed before, but he is proudly wearing that hat as the law enforcement commander in chief. That is what he wants to be seen as, wants to be known as. So he was bragging and crowing about the what he says are changes in the Washington D.C. Crime statistics ever since he federalized the police. He was giving homicide statistics from the Oval Office. It's something we've really not seen before at all. But yes, he is going to at least think about discussing sending the National Guard to other cities. But there are limitations to what the National Guard can do in Baltimore. In Chicago, yes, they can protect federal buildings, they can protect federal assets, but they cannot serve as law enforcement officers. However, is this going to be a legal challenge? It's certainly seen that way from Governor Pritzker. But again, you'd be wrong if you think President Trump is bothered by any of the criticism. Aaron?
Yeah. Jeff Zeleny, thank you very much. And of course, you start.
Yeah, because that's all he gets all day long from you guys. All he gets. What is he supposed to do? He's supposed to wait until CNN says, you know, you're doing something good. Great job.
At one place and you end in another. People don't push back. Everyone is here with me now.
Guys, if you're still here, please hit the subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. Very small channel. Costs you absolutely nothing. Subscribe. Hit that little bell thingy.
So, Lulu, you have obviously spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C. You were at Union Station today. National Guard's there, right? So they're stationed. And, you know, I mean, I remember seeing them in L.A. A lot of them are young guys. They're doing their jobs, right? So it's not about individuals. This is about the fact that they're just there in large numbers now. And you took some pictures that you have shared with us. So these are Lulu's pictures from today. What was it like? What to you there?
You know, it's strange right now in D.C. because it feels like a city that's being strangled. Right now, the District of Columbia, which is home to, let me remind you.
Yeah, there are actual people that were being strangled just before this shit went down, right? Like, I mean, I don't know what she's about to talk about, but you talk to anybody that has been living in D.C. for the past couple of years, it is horrible. It's horrible. There's no reason any city in the United States should be like this. There is no reason. There's no reason for the filth. There's no reason for there's so many layers to this. I mean, I can get into it. This is kind of like my wheelhouse. I probably have to do a totally different show. The bail reform, the criminal justice reform, right? In New York, the biggest thing was reducing the age. Reducing the age was huge. It took the majority of the violence is happening in New York City right now is happening with people between the ages of 14 and 17. That's who's doing the shootings right now, right? They reduced the age in New York. This was a few years back where 16 was, up until that point, was considered an adult. If you committed a felony and then you went through the adult system, and there were a lot more mechanisms to keep these kids put away, you know, especially, you know, I know, 16, 17-year-olds with 5 or 6 shootings under their belts. It is insane that they're just out there. You cut them loose again, they run, they get another gun somewhere, and they're out off to the races, shooting it up towns again. I don't know what this lady's talking about, but anyone that you know of that's been living in Washington, D.C. for the past couple of years has essentially said they do not go outside after dark. It's a war zone. It's disgusting.
700,000 people, more than the population of 2 states, has the highest unemployment rate in the country because of what has happened with the federal workforce. Restaurant reservations are down some 30% in some places. You can't get deliveries because so much of the enforcement has targeted delivery drivers that they are afraid to come out.
Dude, listen to what she's complaining about. Right. So first off, she's saying that unemployment is skyrocketed. Yeah, because a lot of federal employees, they were not needed. They got let go. Boo-hoo. Sorry. Then now she's saying that the restaurants, they're down, like their numbers are down. Yeah, well, you just lost a lot of people who were working there with, you know, cushy jobs that didn't need it. So yeah, there's gonna be less people to eat out, and now you can't get delivered. Like, where are you coming up with this stat that delivery service is slowing down because they're targeting delivery people? Does she mean Uber Eats? Does she mean like all the illegals that are doing Uber Eats? Is that what you're talking about? I know she's not talking about the U.S. Postal Service. She's not talking about FedEx or UPS. She's talking about food deliveries. So she doesn't like it because people that got fired, that has nothing to do with Trump, but whatever. Trump fired the people, okay, people that weren't working. And now your food is getting cold now. And that's what you're crying about? when you know they're trying to save like actual people's lives in the town, but your burrito's 15 minutes late.
Latino community, the Latino community is afraid, and every conversation I have with people in D.C.
The Latino community is afraid. Just lob that shit. You know, just let me let her keep going. It's wild. The Latino community is afraid. Yeah.
DC, they all say that it feels like an occupation. This is not a city that is welcoming what is happening. It is a city that is afraid of what is happening because it is very unusual in America to see armed military on the streets of an American city. And this isn't just any American city. This is the capital of this country.
Yeah, and it's an absolute shit show. It is, once you go outside that area, it's dog shit. Like, it's graffiti, it's robberies, nobody, you know, they don't even stop at lights. You have to blow through red lights. You don't want to get carjacked. You know, like, what world are you living in? You're a New York Times reporter. That's the world you're living in. You have no idea what actual people on the ground are experiencing.
And so what does it say when you have federal forces on the streets of our capital city? You know, Democrats say it is a power grab. Donald Trump says it's about crime, but he wants to export it to other cities. What I can tell you from living in D.C. is that this is a very, very uncomfortable and people feel dangerous time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you say, sometimes when you see
uncomfortable and people feel dangerous time. All right. That's what she says, what she thinks. Interested to see what other people think. If you guys are interested, or if you guys know anybody, comment down below. You can follow me on the X, 6283talk on the X. Again, please hit the subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. I'm John Soto. I will see you again on the next video. Thanks a lot, guys.